Okay, so let us devote this class to new emerging debates in transatlantic region, that is mostly West Europe and North America. So this emerging debate is on the issue of new left economics. New left economics, what they are calling it. There has been generation of left economics also. So even much before Karl Marx, there have been left economy. Marx and his followers, and they are of course central to that left economics. After Marx, again, there is tradition and generations of left economics. However, a large part of left economics ultimately, especially when it came to Britain and overall West Europe, instead of replacing the capitalist system, eventually it went on to strengthen, or rather we can say resurrect, re-Christian the capitalism. It might have in this sense that the leftist, the classical Marxist may have argued that the Western European, or especially British brand of leftism, eventually resurrected, or rather helped in the resurrection of communist economics or overall communist system. So when Marxist ideology reaches the Western European, it strengthens, rather it revives the crises. It presents the solution to the crises that crept into capitalist system and democracy also, which is overall the part of the project capitalism. So it has been an irony of history, you can say, whenever the hardcore left idea, classical Marxism, reaches West Europe, it rather becomes an instrument, an opportunity of resurrecting, reviving, giving rebirth to liberalism. In the end, it revives liberalism, capitalism, and democracy also. So in 19th century, again, we had a tradition of British brand of leftism, Fabian socialism, right, which ultimately decided to provide the social welfare within the legal framework. Instead of abolishing the state, it promised to provide all the social economic rights, welfareist rights within the legal framework and under the patronage of the state itself. Harold Lasky, in the first decade of 20th century, became the prophet of this democratic socialism, beginning with Fabian socialism, ultimately helped in the resurrection, revival, reorganization, and rebirth of liberalism, democracy, capitalism. Similarly, once again, in the backdrop of neoliberalism, ailing, neoliberalism being questioned and attacked from all sides, neoliberalism being touted as having lost the future direction and vision to organize it is being argued that neoliberalism has lost all its potential, it's not working. So the capitalist system under neoliberalism is not working. It's not working for majority of the people. It may have worked, it might be working still, but for a microscopic minority. So even the hardcore capitalists are now accepting that this system, neoliberalism, is not working. It's not working because whatever they say, trickle down will happen. The opportunities will trickle down at the bottom of the ladder. The poor and the poorest, the lower class will also get the opportunity to benefit from capitalism. That really has not happened. It has not happened. What actually has happened is, yes, one thing has happened, that the states, neoliberal states, they have got some money for increasing their size of budget, but whether that increased size of the neoliberal state has actually percolated down to the bottom strata of society or not, that again remains an issue of debate, right? In this backdrop, this neoliberal, and of course the pandemic has intensified this debate. So already there were financial and economic crises of 2008, 9, and continuing. Now pandemic having worsened that crisis in capitalism, now this debate of new left economy, new left economics has gained the momentum. Now from an idea, it is traveling towards an institutionalization. So its proponents are not now academicians. Now its proponents are political leaders, political parties, activists, NGOs, new network of NGOs globally, most importantly in transatlantic region, Western Europe and North America. There has been a great exchange of idea and practices between Western European activists and politicians and North American activists and politicians and new economist ideologues. That is why it is also being now termed as Neo-Atlantic economics. Neo-Atlantic economics. New Atlantic economics. There is a lot of exchange between the people, the people who share this idea in North America, mainly United States, and Western Europe, mainly Britain, UK and US. So a new synergy of idea based around new left economics has taken the center stage in the left politics, and it is presumed that in the next British election, the Labour Party might make a astounding comeback, and Labour Party has gone on to declare that new left economics is going to be its hardcore economic agenda. So now Labour Party, the Labour Party has always been led by the idea of leftism, but this leftism is different from that classical Marxist leftism. The classical Marxist leftism seeking all-out revolution, that is one thing. But as I said, the moment the Marxist ideology reaches Western Europe, especially in Britain, then it is bound to take the shadow of, or rather, the form of democracy. So its possibility to be implemented is only when it is molded in the format of democracy, rule of law. Labour Party was formed on this ideology that the leftist agenda can best be implemented under the patronage of the state itself and through the laws made by Parliament itself. No need of violent and bloody, violent revolution. The revolutionary aims and goals which we seek to achieve, they can best be realized through parliamentary legislation, through rule of law. So by forming them, by giving them the form of socio-economic rights, so by constituting ideology, by calibrating ideology into rule of law, into socio-economic political rights, we can better plan socialist system. This was the background in which Fabian socialism got institutionalized in London, and later Fabian socialism created the platform for Labour Party, which almost subsumed within itself the liberal political party of Britain. And as a result, the two-party system came into existence existence in Britain, one Conservative Party and second Labour Party. However, there are limitations in democracy, there are limitations of implementing the radical ideas as the left is. Left being so radical an idea, seeking to completely overthrow or do away with the income differences, etc., and all kinds of differences, may not be possible in democracy. That's you can see that's paradox of democracy. It propagates the value that will allow equality, but the paradox of democracy is that it has to acknowledge recognize the voting rights to every individual. Every individual also means that there should be differences on the basis of income. So income differences continue under democratic system. When we try to implement this hardcore leftist ideas under democracy through laws, the limitations are clear. The governments are formed not forever, like what may happen under Marxist socialist system. The state that remains as a vestige organ of the capitalist state after revolution, that is permanent state, and it's going to exist till the classless society comes into existence. So the state is permanent and governed by one omnibus, or you can say one homogeneous ruling class. No one is going to change it. That state is not going to be changed. The state after revolution, in classical Marxist format, the state as a vestige after revolution, now it's not going to change. Its ruling class is not going to change, it's permanent. So such a state can consistently carry out the policies. But in democracy, the governments are bound to change, maximum 10 years or 5 years. So after 5 years, the Labour Party changes. So all those radical ideas of building an entirely new economy, remains unfulfilled because they have to change after 5 years. So mandate is for 5 years. What you can do in 5 years? Can you really plant and institutionalize the entire leftist ecosystem in 5 years? That may not be possible. So that has been the history of Britain. Labour Party comes to power. It's not for the first time that Labour Party is adopting this radical idea. I'm going to discuss the main feature of this new left economics. Even after the Great Depression of 1930, Labour Party voted to power, but could hardly complete the task of ending the capitalism and planting an entirely new economic ecosystem. Could not happen. They got the opportunities in 60s and 70s also, but the mandate was for 5 years, maximum 10 years, and their policies often gave birth to the reaction from the next, the right wing emerged, and Thatcherism completely overtook the reign of the power from the leftist, the Labour politics. And Thatcherism became so popular that not only in England it spread to rest of Europe, it went to America also. It became Reaganism. Thatcherism, Reaganism, correct? So, and Thatcherism was so strong with a foundation that it was only in 2010 and onwards that a search for left economics started. So from 75 to 2010, it was again the comeback of hardcore capitalism, neoliberalism. So almost for how many years? 40 years, it was dominance of neoliberalism. Now, of course, not only in Europe and other parts, but in India also, the the symptoms of the symptoms of the failure of neoliberalism are very much visible. What are those symptoms? Trickle down has partially, we cannot completely deny that trickle down has not worked. Yes, partially it has worked. But where is that inclusive development? What about the scope and possibilities of a common businessman, a business person on the street, a business person on the farm? When shall they get the opportunity? I mean, the capitalism says that every person is a capitalist, fine. But what about a common person? When shall a tea seller can really become a capitalist? I mean, there could be one or two rarest of the rare exceptional example, but when and where shall be the equal opportunities for all those who want to progress in their economic life? When they shall get those opportunities? When a common person who wants to and who dreams to be Dhirubhai Ambani, when shall his dreams be fulfilled? The banks are not ready to give them loans. The documentation and the procedure, the entire procedure are so complex that a common man, even if he has the burning desire of and the dream of becoming a capitalist, he accepted that in the language of Adam Smith, every person is an economic animal, correct? But when those economic animals' dreams be realized, where are they? Where are the opportunities? Where is the ecosystem? Where is that ecosystem? And the ecosystem means that a poor woman, a poor tea seller, a poor farmer has easier access to capitalist institutions, financial institutions, and they can give them credit as confidently as they often give it to extend it to their crony friends, their big friends. So it has not worked. In this sense, it has not worked. Also, employees of the companies are not satisfied because employees, and I'm saying employees means not a government employee, private sector employees. So employees of the private sector, service or manufacturing, they do believe that they are the generator of the value for the company, no doubt about it. But a large part of their value generated by them is out of their control. So now, when they shall also have a stake and the say in the management of that company, because there are reason to accept and believe that they have generated that value. 80%, 70% of the value generated by, for example, we can take the example of this e-commerce companies. Who generates the value? The generator of the value are the hardcore employees. There are various categories of employees, but the profits are taken away by, appropriated by not even 1% stakeholder of that company. Similarly, there are communities which feel that better than, they can manage the affairs of the local economy much better and much profitably to themselves than the CEO and etc. There is no need of so-called CEOs, so-called board of directors, etc. If given to themselves, then they can manage, and if CEOs are required, then they shall have the power to appoint the CEOs. Overall control should remain in the hands of the members of the community. So this realization has been growing that what about the promise of capitalism, that everyone is an economic animal and capitalism offers you the opportunity to realize all your dreams and ambition. Why does it work for few people? Why doesn't it work for the masses and others? And this dissatisfaction is amongst middle class employees, lower class, and simultaneously. It is not that only the lower class, middle class employees are equally dissatisfied, mainly in European countries. So there are fundamental structural differences between European countries and India. In the end of this topic, I will come to an exclusive topic, the implications, relevance, application of left economy for India. Because there are structural differences between West European economy and Indian economy. So, can we say that new left economy will be absolutely relevant and applicable for India also? So that topic I will discuss later separately for 15-20 minutes. Correct? Okay. So now let us try to understand what this new left economy is about. So as I said, the left is a much broader and it's an umbrella concept. The center of the left is Marxism. But here left economics is a reference to the left economics that is emerging in transatlantic region, Western Europe and America. There are several variants of left also. There is not one single variant of left. There are numerous variants of left also. But here I am discussing that left which is in transatlantic, which is emerging in transatlantic region. And I told you what happens to the left politics or left economics whenever it flourishes in or develops from transatlantic region. There is so strong the tradition of democracy that all left ideas ultimately get subsumed under the democratic tradition, which is so strong, which has a history of 1,000 years in Europe and its offshoot, that is North America, mainly United States, right? But now, this time it is very different. New left economics is now no longer only an idea. Why it is not an idea? Because several institutions, several research institutions, several trans-boundary networks have emerged around this idea. And most importantly, the Labour Party of United Kingdom has adopted it as its next electoral manifesto under the leadership of Jim Corbyn, who is the shadow prime minister. There is a culture of shadow ministers in this, the part of very enriched political culture of United Kingdom, that opposition forms its shadow ministry. So they have a chancellor, they have a shadow prime minister, they have a shadow finance secretary, they have shadow industry secretary. So the similar kind of shadow minister what we have in reality. So on the one side there is a real government, real council of ministry. On the other hand, opposition, the main opposition party has its own shadow council of ministers, shadow cabinet. So Labour Party has adopted new left economics as its chief electoral plank for the next election, which I think is due the next year itself. If not next year, then next to next year, most probably next year itself. And now Labour Party is becoming very aggressive and very popular also. So now it is not only an academic subject, it has gone out of academic classroom and has become a reality on the ground. The Labour parties are building new models of how to build a new economic model at different city level based on new economics. So they have developed a model called Preston. So Preston Municipal Council is presently being ruled by Labour Party. That's in Lancashire. Lancashire, we know very well, that is one of the most important center of industrial revolution of 19th century. So in Preston, that is in Lancashire, now Labour Party is ruling that municipal council, and at Preston they have developed a Preston model of new left economics. That is totally different from how the big economics, how the capitalist economy functions. So we'll discuss what are the main features of what they are calling new left economics. How is it different from capitalist system, and what are their ambition? Their ambition is to completely replace the neoliberal system. Neoliberal system में क्या होता है? What happens in the neoliberal system? The state is co-opted by neoliberal, the neoliberal giants. Neoliberal giants, multinational corporation, transnational corporation. The state is co-opted. So state become an institution on behalf of, working on behalf of multinational, transnational giants, facilitating through laws and policies the schemes, the investment opportunities, large scale investment opportunities, right? Investment which might not be possible for a state to do it. Now it is made possible with the help of a state for transnational corporation. Everything planned on big level, infrastructure, health, education, everything on large scale. There is no problem, but the problem is that there remains no scope for smaller businesses, local businesses to grow. So it ultimately resulted into the debt. We wanted this model to succeed if it could form the collaborative relation with the local and the small. The big was not a problem. The big could have been a solution provided it could have formed a collaborative, cooperative, complementary relation with the local and the small. But eventually what we are seeing as we proceed in 21st century, that local and a small is dying. Local and a small dying. Very few examples, exceptional example of local and a small having the opportunities to grow, right? So the new left economy wants to give central stage to local and small, local and small. So in the center of new left economy is local and small, should have the equal opportunities to grow and prosper. Cooperative model of economy, they are calling it democratic economy also. They are calling industrial democracy also, right? Cooperative model of capitalism. Let us run capitalism through cooperative model. There is too much of corporate model. There is too much of individualistic model. There is too much of a very narrow base of business leaders running the whole economy. Let there be diversity. Let there be plurality of business, decentralization of economic power, redistribution of economic power. Most important features is that cooperative model of capitalism. Here again, it is important to understand, do they completely want to do away with the capitalism in the beginning itself? No. In the beginning they are saying that let us change how capitalism works. Let us change how capitalism works. Capitalism, which is based fundamentally on Adam Smith's principles of division of labor, specialization, economy of scale and scope, that is not being controverted and debated by the proponents of new left economy. They do accept that economy will prosper only when there is division of labor. Division of labor is fine. That is the foundation of capitalist economy. So to this extent, the proponents of new left economy has no fundamental disagreements with the classical economics, classical liberalism like Adam Smith, Ricardo, etc., that they do not completely controvert and reject the Adam Smithian concept of division of labor economy, and facilitatory role of a state in the business rather than controlling role of the state in business, right? So what are the differences? If they do agree on the fundamentals of classical liberalism and classical liberal economics, then where do they want to differ? There are differences in the field that the financial institutions should work more for the local businesses and the small businesses and cooperative business, and the business being run by workers and employees more and more. One of their slogan in England and both in America is that doubling the number of cooperatives, doubling the number of cooperatives, cooperative to emerge as the new company, right? The economic affairs to be run by cooperatives rather than by the proprietorship or this exploitative company model, of production, distribution and consumption, etc. So they want to establish, and we will see numerous cases how in Europe and mainly in England and in North America and US, how they have built the companies based on cooperative model, and what these companies have done for the local people. That's a new model, of course. That is a new model which offers the ownership of the resources through the ownership of businesses to the local people and to the people who otherwise are not the part of big corporates. So bringing the capitalist opportunities for the local people, the people who do not have much large capital base, they can prosper. And in this way, now the ownership of local resources, local economic opportunities will come to this local people rather than people and employees. They also propose the cooperative of workers. So in companies, there should be cooperatives of workers, and every company should be run by the cooperative of the